The story of the Black Choctaw Indians is a fascinating and complex narrative that intertwines African, Native American, and European histories. It speaks to the power of survival, adaptation, and cultural amalgamation in the face of colonialism, slavery, and racial discrimination. Many people might be unaware of the deep historical connections between the Choctaw Nation and people of African descent, and even fewer realize the extent to which African and Native American lives became intertwined, especially in the southern United States. This relationship created a distinct group of people known as the Black Choctaw, whose origins and identity defy simple categorization. Before delving into the origins of the Black Choctaw, it is important to understand the Choctaw Nation itself. The Choctaw are one of the largest Native American tribes in the southeastern United States, originally inhabiting present-day Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. As one of the 5 civilized tribes, a term used by European settlers, they were known for their agricultural practices, relatively centralized political system, and willingness to assimilate European customs in certain contexts. The Choctaw people were highly organized, with a matrilineal society in which property and kinship were passed down through the mother's line. They had their own governance system and a well-established spiritual and cultural heritage long before the arrival of European settlers. Their society was deeply rooted in communal living and respect for the land, and their economy was sustained by agriculture, hunting, and trading with neighboring tribes. The arrival of European colonists drastically altered the lives of the Choctaw people. Spanish, French, and later British explorers began encroaching on Choctaw land in the 16th and 17th centuries, bringing with them foreign diseases, new technologies, and perhaps most significantly, enslaved Africans. The Choctaw were initially drawn into European trade networks, exchanging goods like animal pelts for firearms and other commodities. One of the most significant and tragic legacies of European colonization was the transatlantic slave trade. Beginning in the 17th century, millions of Africans were forcibly brought to the Americas to work in European colonies. Many of these Africans were brought to the American South, where they were sold into slavery on plantations. However, not all Africans ended up working on European-owned farms. Some were brought into the territories controlled by Native American tribes, including the Choctaw. The Choctaw, like other tribes in the southeastern United States, were drawn into the broader economy of slavery. By the late 1700s, the Choctaw had established a relationship with European colonizers and adopted some of their practices, including slavery. However, the practice of slavery among the Choctaw was distinct from the brutal chattel slavery that European settlers imposed. For instance, enslaved Africans who lived with the Choctaw were often integrated into the community and sometimes intermarried with Native Americans. Over time, this interaction produced a population of mixed African and Native American ancestry, people who would later be known as Black Choctaw. The origins of the Black Choctaw are rooted in this blending of African and Native American cultures. While European colonists sought to categorize people along rigid, racial lines, the Choctaw and other Native American tribes had a much more fluid understanding of identity. Africans who lived among the Choctaw were not necessarily viewed as outsiders, and in some cases, they were accepted as members of the tribe. This integration was facilitated by the Choctaw's traditional matrilineal society, in which one's identity was determined by their mother's lineage. This meant that children born to African women and Choctaw men were considered Choctaw, regardless of their African ancestry. Over time, many Africans adopted Choctaw customs, spoke the Choctaw language, and participated in tribal life. Conversely, some Choctaw people took on elements of African culture, blending the two traditions in unique ways. The relationships between Africans and Choctaw were further complicated by the broader racial dynamics of the United States. By the 19th century, the U.S. government began to pressure Native American tribes to adopt European-style governance and laws, including laws regulating slavery. In 1820, the Choctaw Nation officially codified the institution of slavery in their legal code, and by the time of the Civil War, a significant number of Choctaw owned enslaved Africans. One of the most devastating events in Choctaw history was the Trail of Tears, a series of forced relocations of Native American tribes from their ancestral homelands to Indian Territory, present-day Oklahoma, in the 1830s. Under the Indian Removal Act, signed by President Andrew Jackson in 1830, the U.S. government forcibly removed the Choctaw, along with the Cherokee, Creek, Chickasaw, and Seminole tribes from their homes in the southeastern United States. During this forced migration, known as the Trail of Tears, thousands of Choctaw people died from disease, starvation, and exposure. Many Africans who had lived among the Choctaw also made the journey to Indian Territory, further solidifying the bond between African and Native American communities. The Choctaw who survived the Trail of Tears faced new challenges in Indian Territory, including continued pressure from the U.S. government to assimilate and adopt European customs. For African people living among the Choctaw, the transition to Indian Territory brought both opportunities and challenges. Some were able to continue living as free members of the tribe, while others remained enslaved. The American Civil War had a profound impact on the Choctaw Nation and its African residents. In 1861, the Choctaw Nation sided with the Confederacy, partly because they viewed the U.S. government as an enemy that had betrayed them by forcing their removal from their ancestral lands. As a result, many Choctaw leaders supported the institution of slavery and fought alongside the Confederates during the war. However, the end of the Civil War and the passage of the 13th Amendment in 1865, which abolished slavery, brought significant changes to the Choctaw Nation. In 1866, the U.S. government forced the Choctaw and other tribes to sign new treaties that included provisions for the emancipation of African people living within their nations. These treaties also granted African Americans who had lived among the Choctaw full tribal citizenship, creating a new class of people known as the Black Choctaw. For many Black Choctaw, this period marked the beginning of a new chapter in their history. They were now free citizens of the Choctaw Nation, with the same rights as other members of the tribe. However, the transition to freedom was not without its challenges. Many Black Choctaw faced discrimination from both white Americans and other Choctaw, who viewed them as outsiders despite their long-standing ties to the tribe. The question of identity has always been a central issue for the Black Choctaw. Throughout their history, they have been caught between multiple worlds, African, Native American, and European, and have often been forced to navigate complex social and political landscapes. In the years following the Civil War, the U.S. government implemented policies aimed at assimilating Native Americans into mainstream American society. These policies included the allotment of tribal lands to individual Native Americans and the establishment of schools designed to civilize Native children. For the Black Choctaw, these policies presented a new set of challenges. While they were technically members of the Choctaw Nation, they were often treated differently because of their African ancestry. Many Black Choctaw found themselves marginalized within the broader Choctaw community, and over time, their unique identity began to fade. Some were forced to choose between identifying as African American or Native American, while others continued to embrace both aspects of their heritage. This struggle for identity continues to this day, as many descendants of Black Choctaw seek recognition and acceptance both within the Choctaw Nation and in the broader American society. Today, the legacy of the Black Choctaw lives on in the descendants of those who were once part of this unique community. Many of these descendants still reside in Oklahoma and other parts of the southern United States, where they continue to preserve their cultural heritage. However, the story of the Black Choctaw is often overlooked in mainstream historical narratives, and many people are unaware of the deep connections between African and Native American communities. In recent years, there has been a growing movement to reclaim and celebrate the history of the Black Choctaw and other Black Native American groups. Scholars, activists, and descendants of Black Choctaw are working to raise awareness of this history and ensure that it is not forgotten. They are also pushing for greater recognition of the contributions that Black Choctaw have made to both Native American and African American histories. The origin of the Black Choctaw Indians is a powerful reminder of the ways in which different cultures and peoples can come together to create something new and unique. It is a story of resilience, adaptation, and survival in the face of adversity. And while the history of the Black Choctaw has been marked by challenges and hardships, it is also a testament to the enduring strength of human communities and the power of identity. The truth of the Black Choctaw Indians may surprise those who have never considered the deep historical ties between Africans and Native Americans. But for the descendants of the Black Choctaw, this history is not just a surprising revelation. It is a vital part of who they are, a testament to the rich and diverse heritage that has shaped their identity.